If you haven't noticed, Marvel and DC are not delivering when it comes to good comic books. They're delivering a thing here and there, but mostly those are oddities. It's mostly very flat, bad storytelling, terrible events, things that you don't really buy into, replacing characters left and right and all kinds of stuff, and then just making up side pocket universes because they don't actually want to tell stories with the real Superman or Batman and stuff like that. And if you want to read a good comic book these days, you kind of got to go to the indie scene, which is a good thing because indies are very, very hot right now. You can go over to the Energon universe and you can read Transformers, which I think is the very best comic book of 2024 thus far. Obviously, we still got another 4 or 5 months to suss that out, but it's certainly going to be in the top 5. Another series out there that's really, really awesome that's spawning some extra titles is Conan the Barbarian at Titan Comics, which is a European publisher into the American market. Conan the Barbarian from Jim Zub, my number 3 comic book for all of 2024 thus far. Absolutely amazing series. If you love Conan as much as I love Conan, and let's put it this way, I may have named one of my children Conan. You're gonna love that comic book. It's absolutely amazing. Really gets to the heart of Robert E. Howard's vision for Conan and what he is, and it's a really good interpretation. All new stories, not just adaptations of the Robert A. Howard stuff, but really additive to Conan and what he's doing there. And there's another series that sits right there in the middle in my list of the best comic book series of 2024, also an indie book, comes from Image Comics imprint Ghost Machine, which is led by Geoff Johns and just a bevy of awesome comic book artists and writers. The name of that book is Rook Exodus. And if you have not been reading Rook Exodus, I am going to do my damnedest to sell this book to you today because I could not believe in this comic book more than I do. It's only 4 issues into it, and there hasn't been a dud yet. Amazing storytelling, awesome characters, phenomenal art. Jason Fabok is the artist on this book. And while there is a buzz to it, and basically everyone that I know that has checked out Rook Exodus has said, yes, I'm all in on this comic book. And not enough people are talking about this. Certainly not to justify the amazing high-level quality associated with the book. You've got Geoff Johns, you got Jason Fabok. Basically, you have a superstar pairing of creators that likely should be doing a 3 Jokers sequel or something like that, or should be lighting Marvel's world on fire. Obviously, they got fed up with mainstream comic books and they decided to do their own thing. And I will say this about Ghost Machine. They have 3 books out right now, and all of them are very good. Geiger with Gary Frank and Geoff Johns is good. Redcoat with Brian Hitch and Geoff Johns is very, very good. And Rook Exodus with Jason Fabok and Geoff Johns is the very best. It's the cream of the crop, but we've also got some Geoff Johns, Ivan Reese stuff coming called Hyde Street. It's going to be more horror related. We've also got some Peter J. Tomasi family friendly books coming down the pipe that are likely to be very, very good. I love me some Peter J. Tomasi. And if you're not on the Ghost Machine bandwagon yet, I want to get you there. So let's talk about Rook Exodus and the 5 major reasons that I think everyone should be reading this. And you say, Wes, why are you making it 5 reasons? Because if I don't have structure to this, I will just talk for 50 minutes straight about how amazing I think this comic book is. And it'll be all over the place and it'll all be true, but it will not be in any type of structure. And I need that because when I'm talking about something that I'm really into, I tend to be a bit of a windbag. Starting off with my first reason, Jason Fabok's amazing art. This book looks spectacular, as you would imagine it would. Jason Fabok is one of the 3 or 4 best artists of his generation. He's somebody that in 30, 40, 50 years, new prospective comic book artists will be looking at and trying to hone their craft and learning how to do visual storytelling. Jason Fabok is simply an amazing comic book artist. And it comes through in spades in this setting. It's unique characters and it's a unique take on like a dystopian type future. Although in this case, these people have left Earth, they have arrived on another planet that's being terraformed. And a lot of things are going wrong. The main characters, called Wardens, all wear helmets. And the reason that they are there with these helmets on that look like animals is because it allows them to control the local wildlife. So you have a bear warden, you've got a wolf warden, you've got a crow warden, you've got a spider warden, you've got a deer warden. And you get these really amazing designs. All the helmets obviously kind of functionally work with the animals, but also kind of look like them. And this is right down Jason Fabok's alley. It just looks stunning how cool it is. When you see these characters that he has designed for this universe, you want to reach into the comic book, you want to pull it out, and you want to play with it. It looks like the world's most badass collection of new action figures. That's how cool they are. But there's so much more to this comic book to enjoy when it comes to the visual storytelling. There are so many cool elements to it. You've got enormous turtles with like missiles mounted on their back. You've got a pack of enormous bears with cockpits with lasers mounted on their backs. And the colorist that's working with Jason Fabok, I forget their name at the moment, they do an awesome job of making the main character just zoom to the focal point of what you're looking at, and all the background stuff, because of the way they color it, it's there and you get all the detail, but it doesn't pop you right the first thing. You notice that character and then you see all that detail around it. And it's really good visual storytelling on the part of the entire team. You don't get like Stephen Bissett levels of insanity when it comes to page layouts. Nothing like that off the charts creative with the way paneling works out. It's a Jason Fabok book, but Jason Fabok is a phenomenal storyteller and does action second to none to anybody in comic books. Maybe Daniel Warren Johnson is right there with him, but he's probably the only one that can even compete with Fabok when it comes to action sequences illustrated in a book. When they fight, you feel it. You can see everything that's going on. You know exactly what's happening within the fight. You don't wonder, oh, what happened in this character, whatever. It's all there, wonderfully done, and Jason Fabok on the book alone is worth the price of admission, which I believe is $3.99 an issue. Well worth it, and it would be worth $5.99 an issue just for the art because it is simply spectacular. If you love comic book art, if you like cool designs, if you like cool concepts, this is comic book for you. The second thing that I would like to point out is the awesome setting and stakes that have been built up here. The setting itself is Exodus from the title. Exodus is the planet that was terraformed. An enormous business from Earth decided Earth was no longer inhabitable. People needed to start moving. They went and bought themselves a planet. They started terraforming it, and then they hired these wardens to kind of come in and control the wildlife and everything. But these are not very rich people. The wardens are brought in as to help. And basically, if you could afford to fly to this planet, you could have it there. And it was kind of like a luxury planet. Casinos, waterfront hotels, nice restaurants all over the place. And then something terrible happened. The world engine, I think that's what it's called. It might be something else. But basically, the apparatus that was terraforming the environment on Exodus stopped working. The company, because all those people had paid to move there, basically evacuated all those people off planet, likely back to Earth, and left the wardens and all the people that they had transported there to work there behind. So the environment itself is unstable, and soon enough, it will no longer be inhabitable by humans and likely all the animals and stuff. There have been a few side effects by this world engine no longer working and the terraforming basically not holding and kind of reversing. The animals have started to grow wildly out of control with their size. What should be a normal sized grizzly bear, which is enormous, is actually about 4 or 5 times bigger than that. These turtles that should be pretty big, they're the size of boats at this point because they have just started to grow out of control because this terraforming device did not take and it started to undo itself. We have this character Rook, i.e. the name Rook in the name Rook Exodus. He's the main character. He's one of the wardens. He's the bear warden. In fact, he's the bird warden, and he knows that he needs to get off this planet. So there's one faction of people that realize we need to escape. We need to make our own rockets if we can and get out of here before the planet no longer sustains life. And there's another faction of wardens who believe this is our planet. These are our animals. Let's fight for it and see if we can fix this thing, and we can just live here without the corporation. So those are the stakes. If you don't get out in time, you're likely to die. Plus, you have a rogue element within the wardens themselves that have decided they're going to go out there and start stealing all the helmets and killing the other wardens and take all the power for themselves. So you got this character, Rook, who's sitting right there in the middle of this amazing setting with stakes that are through the roof, already established in the first 4 issues, and you just buy into it because it's all so goddamn cool. That's the only way I can describe it. The third thing that they're doing in this book that is really good is the characterability itself. Rook, the main character, he's the Warden of Crows. And he does not exactly like the fact that he's always got birds in his mind, because he has this helmet that allows him to connect with the birds. And you start getting a little bit of the bird's natural instincts start seeping into his mind and affecting his own instincts. In fact, he can't take it at some points, and he will try to drink the birds out of his own head because he can't take it anymore. This man was a poor farmer, a generational farmer on Earth. The climate on Earth was deteriorating. Farms were drying up, and he ended up having a massive fire, had nowhere to go. He was recruited by this enormous company to go to Exodus to be one of the wardens, and went into the training program. And obviously, he ended up being the Warden of Birds. The other main character, her name is Direwolf. She's got a human name. I don't remember what it is, but she's very, very sexy. She's got a big scar on her face. She's got a really cool outfit. And she has a very different point of view from Rook when it comes to the animals and the responsibility of being a warden. She's all in on it. In fact, her and her father were basically the lead trainers for all the wardens on the planet. And she feels like it's her responsibility to take care of the animals and to take this planet back for them and make it hospitable so they can live their lives together. Basically, that's what her point of view is. And she is all in. She is not only bought into the corporation that hired her and her father, and likely they were kind of upper management type people within the warden team, but she is certainly bought into her wolves. She has a pack of wolves that she's responsible for, and she has connected on a different level with her wolves than Rook has with his birds. She does not resent it. She fully embraces the opportunity and the responsibility to work with these animals, to the point where the helmets are starting to malfunction because people evacuated a long time ago and things are a little bit on the fritz. And when her helmet malfunctions, she's got a pack of enormous wolves. Like I said, they're all growing and growing and growing and growing. And they like to eat, and they might be a little bit hungry, but they actually will not attack her because they see her like as one of the pack. In fact, she's like the pack leader, and she doesn't have to worry about that because her connection with the wolves is completely different than Rook's connection with his birds, which is really holding Rook back and kind of the whole plot. I don't want to give too many elements of this away because I do think you should read this, the first 4 issues. So I'm kind of talking around with some of the major plot elements and why this stuff really works, but I am leaving out a ton of detail. But the characters are really cool. The main bad guy's name is Ursaw, and he is the Warden of Bears. And I don't know how to explain it. If you were to cast a person to play this character in live action, it would be the guy that played the Mountain in Game of Thrones, and the Mountain would be too small. He's incredibly enormous. He's got some weird past. It feels like maybe, just maybe, Direwolf and her father had something to do with what happened with him that made him different, that made him enormous. We don't know that yet, but he is the Warden of Bears, and it's his mission to go out there and acquire all the other helmets, all the other warden helmets, so he can control all the animals and basically control all the power on the planet. And he is the big bad guy in there, and he's incredibly nasty looking. It's a great design and a fantastic villain. There are some other main characters in there, but those are 3 big ones. And Geoff Johns has been doing a very good job fleshing out Rook first because he's the main character, adding in those elements of a relationship to Direwolf and what she's gone through and her point of view and her motivation, which is completely different than Rook's. And then he's starting to add some of those mystery elements to Ursaw, the Bear Warden, who obviously is going to take a little bit more time to flesh out because they don't want to give away all the secrets. But the character development's there, and you kind of buy into him. And I'm rooting for not only Rook, but I'm also rooting for Direwolf, despite them being diametrically opposed with certain motivations and points of view on what's actually happening. Great character work is how you get people to buy into a series. The next thing that I think they're doing awesome on this book, and I cannot oversell this about how amazing it is, the pacing of Rook Exodus is phenomenal. It is a perfectly paced comic book. There are some books out there, and I'll put an example out there. Nightwing. They introduce a villain in the very first issue, and it takes you almost 2 years before he ever comes into conflict with Nightwing. And we're 3 years into the book, and they still haven't resolved anything with that character. We're 4 issues into this one. They've introduced the main villain. They introduced a sub-villain. And by the 4th issue, we've had 3 major conflicts. The 2 that you were waiting for, that you were salivating for, and then an additional one that you didn't even realize needed to happen. They're actually taking care of business. They're moving the plot along. They're actually providing resolution to story elements that were introduced in the first issue. Are they providing resolution to all of them? Absolutely not. There are some things that are going to take a little bit more time to resolve, but there is still conflict going on within there, and they're not just keeping all the characters away from each other, not allowing anything to happen, and slow rolling the hell out of you, which is what a lot of comic book creators do these days, which I find to be just incredibly, incredibly frustrating, the way that modern comic books are paced, not even for the trades anymore. You don't pace Nightwing for the trades. You pace that for the omnibus. You're pacing that for the big collection. They're not doing that. They're not holding anything back. You're getting major conflicts early on in there. Is there a final resolution to all of them? Absolutely not. There are 3 major conflicts. There's a final resolution to one of them, which is more than I can say for a lot of modern comic book writers. And I like the pace. Yes, introduce me to the characters. Let me know why I need to like them. But also, let me know why they're amazing, and let me see them fail, and let me see them win, and let me go on this journey with them, not just watching them eat food and passing around like Cheez-It crackers, talking about how much their life sucks. Why don't you show it to me? And when you have an artist as amazing as Jason Fabok, you should definitely do that. That should be your priority. And when you have a writer as awesome as Geoff Johns, he knows he needs to do that. And that's why you have basically a perfectly paced comic book thus far. I'm very, very impressed with the way that they're moving this. They are not slowing down. Will there be a filler issue eventually? Yes. I imagine at some point we will get a filler issue in Rook Exodus. Thankfully, they didn't do it in the first 4 issues, which is what a lot of other creators out there would do. If you're tired of boring-ass, slow-roll comic books that move at a snail's pace, this is the comic book for you. It doesn't go a million miles an hour, but it goes right the perfect pace to really get you moving, get you invested, and keep you invested as you're moving along in the story. And they're not just squatting, doing nothing for 3 or 4 issues, which I find to be incredibly frustrating with modern comic books. This thing is phenomenally paced. The final thing that I'll talk to you about that I think might be the most tantalizing aspect of Rook Exodus is there's plenty more world to explore. Yes, we've hit on some of the major themes and what Ursaw's after and what he needs to gain and who's the leader of all the wardens and how you can get from this place to that place and the fact that their rations are dwindling here and there and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot more world to explore, and nothing was a better example of this than a few pages of art in issue number 3 from Jason Fabok when they start talking about all the other wardens. And from the beginning, I've known there's other wardens, but they haven't really shown it too much. We've really only seen the 4. Well, I guess 5 at this point. And when you see the Samurai Deer Warden, and you see like the Goat Warden, and you see the Wasp Warden, and you see the Spider Warden, the Rooster Warden, and the Rabbit Warden, and the Ram Warden, like I was going, I want to meet some of these characters, not just because they look phenomenal, and they all look phenomenal. I cannot believe he made the Cock Warden look cool, but the Rooster Warden looks like $1 million. I can't believe he made the Hare Warden, the Rabbit Warden look awesome, but he made it look awesome. But even with just the one panel and seeing what the characters are doing, you get a feel or a sense of at least a little bit about who they are, and it makes you intrigued. You want to meet them. There's no character in this book I want to meet more than that freaking Deer Warden, because I think samurais are cool. I like swords. I like all that kind of stuff. That is literally my wheelhouse. But if you're more of an adventurer type of person, I don't know if you noticed, but that Goat Warden was leading like a group of people up mountains and stuff. Obviously, he's more of an adventurer and kind of stuff like that. And I imagine the Spider Warden, if he let the spiders get into his head, could be like freaking schizophrenic or something. And I want to meet more of these characters, not just because the designs are cool, but because the way that they were portrayed in just a brief moment was intriguing enough to where, man, I want this series to last, at least give me 5 years. Give me 60 issues of this world and flesh it out and let me get to meet just a bevy of amazing characters. And, I don't think Ursaw is going to be the villain to the entire thing. Bring on a bigger villain. You know, where's the freaking rhinoceros warden where you need them? You know what I mean? Who doesn't want a warden that's got like 2 80-foot tall rhinoceroses, you know, with like with laser beams on top of them? I want to see somebody fight that guy. I think that would be a lot of fun. And there's just so much meat on the bone with the concept that they've introduced and the characters that are here and all the things that have been hinted at, that you know there are so many places to go, that once that first story is done, or maybe when that first villain is overtaken and, you know, and kind of defeated, that there's plenty of places to go for this. There are so many books that you see out there. You know, I know a lot of people like James Tynion, and, you know, I like Something Is Killing the Children. That's a 12-issue story, and then it's done. I know they keep trying to add stuff to it, but it doesn't really work after the 12th issue because you told the story that needed to be told, and there was nothing left to do with the series. Another example, I think Philadelphia from Rodney Barnes is fantastic. Once that first story is over with Sam Adams, the story is over. There's nowhere left to go, and they're just sitting there treading water, trying to make up reasons for the series to continue because it was successful. This place has a billion places to go, and they haven't even touched on most of it. And that's really what's got me most tantalizing, is you can see the world itself expanding and offering new places and ideas to be incorporated in here. We still have the corporation, you know, that abandoned them. If they finally fix the planet, are they going to come back and try to take it? You know, are the wardens going to have to fight back? That would be a really cool battle. That would be a really cool plot. That would be a really cool storyline. And it certainly seems like something that and it certainly feels like something that's almost inevitable if this series lasts at least 2 or 3 years. I could keep going on because when I do get excited about books and I want to tell you how amazing they are, it is difficult for me to shut my mouth. But I feel like I put enough information out there with giving a couple of key plot elements without spoiling the story, that I think if you haven't checked this out and you weren't sold on it, hopefully you are now, or at least you give it a chance. Go out there, find the first issue, and tell me I'm wrong. I don't think that you will. I think everybody that has decided to go out there and give Rook Exodus a shot has come away satisfied and realizing that there's something here. And as you go along, it just gets better and better. You've got creators that you can count on, Geoff Johns and Jason Fabok. Geoff Johns has missed some release dates as of late. It's been happening for a few years. You know, certainly with Doomsday Clock, certainly has happened with JSA. Hasn't happened here yet. Hopefully it doesn't happen. Jason Fabok is obviously a consummate pro, one of the best artists in the entire world. You know, if you're a sci-fi geek and you're a comic book geek, like, this is the stuff I live for. And I hope that you give this a shot and we can continue talking about Rook Exodus, because over on Thinking Critical Patreon, if you go to the lowest tier, we get a comic book review that's exclusive to there, and I put up the video and everything. And basically every time Rook Exodus has come out, everyone has voted for that book, and I've had to review every single issue thus far. And I'm going to keep doing it until people stop voting for it on Think Critical Patreon. If you're interested in all those reviews, there's a link in the video description to the Patreon. I hope to see you there.